Here we are. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi. My name is Stacy Nelm, the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. Ready for our lunch and learn for today of December 12th. I am thrilled to be joined by Shelia Ellis-Glasper. Hi.
Good afternoon, Stacy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no. Are we having connectivity issues? It makes me so sad. But yes, Shelia, I'm so thrilled to have Shelia on. She is the founder of the Black Entrepreneurs of Flint Hills. And I had the wonderful opportunity to go to one of their lunch and learns, a Black and Bankable lunch event, or actually it wasn't a lunch and learn. It was an all day inclusive. So it was not just for a short amount of time. It was an all day program, and learned a lot. So I thought at that day, I'm like, hey, I need to have her on for the lunch and learn. So was that the first one you had planned?
No, it was actually one of our first all-day training events like that. And can you hear me okay, Stacy?
I can.
I know we had a little lag. Okay. Yeah, it was one of our first all-day training events like that. And it was our first time partnering with Sister Biz Global Network with Mykesha Booth, who's the founder of Sister Biz, to bring this training that we needed. We know that our Black entrepreneurs, two of the most pressing issues are, number one, access to capital, and number two, access to culturally competent business training and resources. And so knowing those issues that are pressing on our Black entrepreneurs in our community, we knew that bringing those two things together through this all-day event would be necessary and, life-changing really for the businesses that were there. And we hope to do more of these types of events. We do a lot of partnering with other organizations in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and helping our members connect to those resources as well. And so that was our first all day Black and Bankable initiative training, where we also brought in bankers as well. We brought in bankers. We had 6 different financial institutions there represented for a panel discussion to really talk about what does it look like to be bankable? What are banks looking for? What is the underwriting process? So that people could ask questions and make that connection. And then we also brought in Deborah Gladney, who is the founder of now WorkTorch. Her and her sister were the first Black women in the state of Kansas to raise over $1 million in VC funding for their tech platform. And so she came in and did a Q&A as well and talked about what does it look like to be investable, what does it look like to, get the attention of investors and be able to pitch to investors, and what does that look like? So it was a very intense all-day event where we went over all the things that it takes for our Black-owned businesses to be successful in being backable and bankable.
Gotcha. It's funny. I have just jumped right in to talk about what you do, but I need to back up and let people know even who you are and the organization that you're with. So this is Shelia Ellis-Glasper. I just got too excited and started talking. And I have a quick bio. So Miss Ellis-Glasper was born and raised here in Kansas, a graduate of Kansas State University, who has a degree in journalism and mass communications. Shelia is a nationally published journalist featured in USA Today, Chicago Tribune, ESPN, and CNN. I'll have to ask you about that. In her reporting career, she leveraged the importance of social media to build relationships and to stay ahead of the competition. Ms. Ellis-Glasper is the former social media manager at Kansas State University. In her role at KSU, she built the university's social media presence to be recognized as a top university on social media in the nation. She has served as a social media consultant for Kansas Small Business Development Center and is the founder of SEG Media Collective, which she founded in 2016 to provide branding and social media consulting and management services to businesses worldwide. Over the past decade, Shelia and her team have crafted dozens of award-winning brands in the Midwest and across the United States. She's an advocate for underrepresented businesses, economic justice, and again is the founder and president of the Black Entrepreneurs of Flint Hills, a nonprofit organization created to empower, equip, and connect Black business owners in the Flint Hills region of Kansas. And I want to put this in, you were awarded the 2021 Minority Business Advocate of the Year from the state of Kansas Department of Commerce. So that's just because I forgot, I didn't even tell everybody who you were. That's who you are. That is what you have been doing. That is what you currently are doing. And then the absolute most important question I need to ask all of my guests, because it's a lunch and learn, of course, is what are you having for lunch?
I'm having some lovely water here. And I will grab something right after our session here.
Yeah. I was going to bring leftovers from dinner last night, but my children took them instead to school. So I was like, okay. But yeah, so when you were talking about the Black and Bankable all day long business thing, that was a part of your work with the Black entrepreneurs of Flint Hills.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which you started in 2016. So let's tell everybody about the Black entrepreneurs of Flint Hills. Like you sort of talked about that one day activity, but what's this group in its general sense?
For sure. Yeah. So I started SEG Media Collective in 2016. So that's my marketing agency. And I started really looking around my area and my region, which is the Flint Hills. So we have over 100 Black entrepreneurs that are involved in our organization across the Tri-County area of Riley County, Geary County, and Potawatomi County. And so we have a very interesting demographic situation in our area because of the transient community. We have Kansas State University, which is what brought me to this area, as well as Fort Riley Military Base. So we have a lot of, people and families coming in and out all the time. And it is a diverse area from that perspective. So Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills started it's been 2.5 years now. We started informally as a Facebook group. I was really looking to find entrepreneurs that look like me. I was trying to figure out my resources that I had available, and I was constantly having to travel outside of the Flint Hills region to find those culturally competent training and business resources that I needed. Right. I was constantly having to go to Topeka, to Kansas City. And I thought, well, what is there here? And then I started getting involved in a lot of DEI initiatives here in our region, different types of task force and committees. And I was looking around and being the only one in the room. And I started asking, why am I the only one in the room? Yes, I knew that it was important for me to be there as a representative, to voice our concerns as minority and underrepresented, underestimated business owners in our region. But at the same time, I knew that, there's more to it than just what I'm saying. So that's why we started the organization. It really came out of a need of representation, building up Black leaders in this area, in particular through entrepreneurship, and just being able to have a body, an organization of unity where we're coming together and providing that community for each other, sharing our wins with each other and, those struggles and challenges, and coming up with solutions for our region that will help us grow stronger businesses, because we know, our businesses, make an impact in this area. We bring in revenue as well. We employ people as well. And right. If we can all grow, and have access to the things that we need to grow our businesses as well, it's good for the region as a whole. And so that's how we came. So
you said something that I think is so important, that you said you looked around and you would go to these meetings or go to trainings, and you were the only one who looked like you, right? You were the only Black face there, one of few. And so that you went back home and said, okay, it's time for me to start something. And so how did you make the leap from being a Facebook page? Because I know you are like Black Entrepreneurs of Flint Hills you still have a Facebook presence. Mm-hmm. But you are more organized. You have memberships. Like the day that I went to, there were probably 50 people there easily. Mm-hmm. And you said that there's 100 people. So how did you make that leap between just being a Facebook loose conglomeration to saying, okay, this is something that I really want to take on and help organize and encourage and train and teach?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stacey. I actually, we started the Facebook group, myself, Douglas Barrett, who is the owner of 400 North Creative. He's also our vice president of our organization. He's a photographer. And we met at a co-working space because we both had, we're utilizing the co-working space for our businesses, and we were also the only ones there. And so naturally we started talking about, hey, what does this look like? What kind of banking relationships do you have? Like, how do I get a loan? Like, I'm trying to build my business. And so we started talking. My husband, who's a co-founder of the organization with me, lots of conversations at home about, just challenges, frustrations. What can we do to make this better for, Black entrepreneurs coming behind us? And then George Floyd was murdered, and, the world stood still. And from that point, we started having allies in our communities standing up and saying, hey, where are the Black-owned businesses at? How can we support? Because that was a way that it was, presented. If you want to do something about these issues, obviously not to, institutional and systemic racism in our country, supporting for, economic justice and equality is a big piece of that. And so with that, that's how the organization started. So we went from a Facebook group to then a business directory that we created, went from a business directory and realized, hey, all these folks that are in our directory, they're coming to us now for help.
Right.
And we need to build up our resources. Now we need to build partnerships and relationships with other organizations that can help us with resources and help us with funding so that we can bring more of, what's needed as far as trainings, resources. We're going to be launching our micro grant fund next year, really next month. And so being able to do that, partnering with organizations like Kansas Black Leadership Council, with Network Kansas, even with you in your office, and just building up those relationships so that we could bring those resources, much needed resources to this area.
I love it. I love it. So you truly have that entrepreneurial spirit that says, I'm not just going to do right by me, but I'm going to help in turn and help other people around me. And so, but you yourself, so how did you get into business? Right? Like, I know, I'm trying to figure out which question to ask first, because I know you have a business, your social media consulting business. How did you get into that? Because I know you did that at K-State. Was that, I guess there's not really a major in social media.
There is one now.
A major now. Is there one now?
Yeah, there is now. But, really, I've always had a love for storytelling. And I've always had a love for, all things, and I didn't even know what it was called at the time. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has become a buzz term, over the past couple of years. But when I was in school, I didn't really know what that looked like. I just knew that I was into storytelling and journalism. I knew that I wanted to do good in this world. I wanted to give a voice to people that, in the mainstream media were voiceless or not being represented, correctly. And I also had a love for like nonprofit things, all things nonprofit. And so the progression in my career over the past 15 years has really been, connecting all of these pieces that I've been passionate about, conversations that I've had with individuals. And then obviously the entrepreneurial spirit part that you're talking about, definitely just being underrepresented business owner here in our area, and one that was running, a successful business full time. I had a lot of folks coming to me asking, what can I do, or like help me with my marketing or whatever the case may be. And I started seeing like, hey, we don't have everything that we need here. And I want to do something about it. And, that's really how it all came to be. And really just being able to partner with people in our community, like the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, has been helpful. And just being able to connect, in the entrepreneurial ecosystem here as a support organization.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think, and when you talk about partnering, that's such a key, component to how these things are successful, is finding the partners and then helping sort of connect the dots across. I mean, that's part of the reason why I knew I wanted to have you on. My audience isn't huge, but I'm like, all right, if I can help you spread the word about the work that you're doing, then maybe, you know, people who are in Flint Hills know that that there's a place where they can go to find resources and get linked in. And I think back to the Black and Bankable Day that you did, that was something that it was so important that you brought in bankers to talk about how do you get a loan. And in fact, Kesey Milligan, I had her on a couple weeks ago from AltCap. So just this idea of connecting people to the bankers and to talk about that, because I know that sometimes in our community there's not the historical knowledge or the generational knowledge about how to run a business, and so it's important to have those resources out in the community and help people get connected to those resources.
Mm-hmm. And we know that, you know, traditionally, I mean, in our Black and Bankable intensive, we went over the stats. You know, we went over the stats that, you know, 8 out of 10 of our businesses fail within the first, you know, 2 years, you know, that many of us are denied loans, you know, and access to capital. When you look at the racial wealth gap, you know, white families, their wealth is 10 times more of that than Black and Latinx families. And so when you look at those demographics and you look at what entrepreneurship and ownership can provide, it can be a bridge, you know, and that bridging that gap when it comes to building generational wealth. But the only way you can build generational wealth is not just to start a business, but to sustain a thriving and growing business, to bring in, look and see what it looks like to build a team, you know, around this business, so that by the time you're ready to retire, you have a fully fledged business with a plan on, do you have a succession plan? Are you going to give it to your children? Or what does that look like? Are you building a sellable business to where you can actually sell your business and make money? Or are you building a business that's just surviving, you know, quarter to quarter, year to year? And so that's where the business training and resources really come in handy. And it's very vital because we need to grow thriving businesses. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the nation. However, we are the least when it comes to the amount of revenue that we make, and we are also the least funded. And so there's a problem there, and there's a big gap there, showing that obviously we have the skills, we have the passion to start these businesses, but we need to bridge that gap into what does it look like to actually grow and thrive in our businesses.
And I've had enough people on, and like your day, that whole day, and have had enough people on talking about businesses. I know that a lot of times Black women, when they start a bit, like you say, entrepreneurial spirit is there, but they may start a business in their home. That's great and all, but there's a difference between starting a business in your home and then, like you were saying, have a business that can employ people, or a business that can grow, or not that's just something that you're running out of your kitchen or out of a back room. So yeah. So now to that end, I know there's a couple that are coming to my mind, but what are some of the success stories from the Flint Hills, the Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills? Yourself, in fact, I want to take a couple minutes, because heaven forbid we do not talk about your social media consulting company. So I want you to be able to, you know, promote yourself as well here, because you do have a company. So tell me about SEG. I'll count that as a success. And then if there's another success from the Black Hills entrepreneurs.
Yes, for sure. So my company, and the cool thing about our organization is we are entrepreneurs, help entrepreneurs. So everyone on our board of directors, we are all entrepreneurs. Everyone on our leadership team, we are all entrepreneurs. So we're in the trenches also with our members, working to get solutions that will not only help their businesses, our member businesses, but us as well, which is why we're so passionate about what we do, because these are solutions that are needed. SEG Media Collective, we focus on social media management, training and consulting, as well as branding. And so we help companies that sometimes they're in the startup phase where they're starting their business, and they need help with, you know, creating their brand identity and their website and all the pieces that you need to successfully launch a business. And then we come in for the social media management side of things so that we can help them maintain their digital presence after they start their business. So we're really, you know, a comprehensive creative agency that serves, from the beginning, all the way to the end. We've helped with startups. We've also helped with people that are selling their businesses, and maybe they've had their business for 40 years and it's time for a rebrand. It's time for a refresh, because now they're putting that succession plan into action and they're getting ready to sell, and they need it to be up to date and look great. So we've helped, from that whole spectrum. As far as Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills, we have so many success stories in this short amount of time that the organization has been in existence, which is really, we're going into our third year in 2023. And so we have 5 of our members that are selling their products in Hy-Vee stores right now, which is really point of pride for our organization, to help our members think bigger and understand what does it look like to move from selling at the farmer's market to the shelf. And really that was inspired by my son, who has a lemonade business, Trey Squeeze. And he was selling at the farmer's market along with my uncle, who has a barbecue business. Shout out to Smokin' H's Meats there in Topeka. And he realized there were no drink vendors at the farmer's market. And so he asked me if he could create a lemonade stand. From there, he caught the attention of Hy-Vee. We built that relationship, went through the entire process of what is it like to, be FDA compliant, go through the Department of Ag, all the things that we needed to figure out to be shelf stable, and go from selling a cup of lemonade made on the spot at the farmer's market to on the shelf. And we went through that process with my son. After we went through that process, my husband and I said, okay, there are other Black-owned businesses in our membership that also want to do this. So then we began consulting one-on-one with our members of who is ready and what does it take to prepare for that and help them. So within this year, we have 5 of our businesses that are now selling in Hy-Vee stores between here and Kansas City.
I have so many questions. First of all, how old is your son?
He's 11.
11. So the 11-year-old has a business that's selling in Hy-Vee.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Super impressed.
Well, that's all, that's
I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I don't even know.
Well, he has me to help him, right? And his dad and the community.
At 11, I was not that. I was like, yeah, maybe I would have been on the at the base of my driveway with a little, like a thing that said buy Kool-Aid for 50.
Yeah, but you know what, Stacey, that's really, his story is really heartwarming, I think, for our whole organization, because he inspires me, he inspires other members when they were like, well, hold on a minute. He's in Hy-Vee and he's 11. Like, wait, what are we doing? We need to, And so in that, it really shows it's hard to be what you can't see.
Yeah,
and that's why it's so important, because this child has grown up with me, as an entrepreneur his whole life. Yeah. I started my entrepreneurship journey with my laptop right next to his crib when he was a baby. So he saw this. So when he saw a problem, he created a solution, and then he knew that it was possible to do, and it wasn't out of reach, because he's surrounded around Black entrepreneurs that look like him, and he's around business all the time. So it wasn't scary to him.
That idea of you can't be what you don't see has come up so often in my lunch and learns. Everything from the Wyandotte County DA to even my own, path through politics, your path through business, Mark Dupree's path through law, this idea that all of us had something where we saw someone and said, okay, well, if they can do it, I think I can do it. And so, I mean, I just want to thank you for the fact that you're doing all this out loud, right? That you didn't take the knowledge that you learned even from your son, getting into Hy-Vee, and say, okay, well, now we've got this knowledge. Let me just, hold it close. But then you turned around and shared it with others. That is so important. And something that I think our community, there are definitely examples in our community of people doing it very well, of taking knowledge and sharing it out. But then unfortunately, there's some examples in our community of people not taking information and sharing it out and sort of gatekeeping. So I just want to thank you, one, just for the amount of work that you're doing. Because like you say, that it's not in Topeka or Wichita or the KC Metro where there's a sort of a critical mass of people, but to go into the Flint Hills. Okay, so your son definitely, and there are 5 people. I know when I went to the Black and Bankable, I sat next to she was at makeup, and she was just getting ready to launch into.
She has a wonderful Jay's Makeup Artistry, Jessica Andrews. She's a formerly trained makeup artist. She is the director of makeup artistry at Bellis Academy here in Manhattan. She has done makeup.
I felt very self-conscious about my eyebrows
yes.
sitting next to her. I was like,
she's amazing. She's amazing. Definitely check her out. But this lady has an entire end cap of products at Hy-Vee. And so we're building something very grassroots, very organic in this organization where we're inspiring each other and helping each other to grow. So that's like on the product side. On the service side, our service providers, we work with each other to figure out contracts. You know, it's like, hey, I just landed my first government contract. Like, what does that look like? Or, hey, we really need to go and learn this process of becoming certified as a minority-owned business in the state of Kansas, because that can open up doors for you. And it's different when it comes from an individual that's done it and has had opportunities from it. You know, because, you know, it's that trust factor. It's like, okay, this is a long process. Is it going to be worth it for me? There are people in the organization that have hit 7 figures in their businesses, that have hit multi six figures and 6 figures in their businesses. What does that look like when I get to that point of growth? And so we definitely have a lot of, you know, just each one teach one. The African, you know, proverb is very big in our organization, and just learning and taking the data of what the needs are and what the challenges are and what solutions we can offer. And lastly, you know, we are in what's considered a rural area. But if you look at rural areas in particular across the United States, you know, we're still there. As Black folks, like we are in some rural areas as well. And rural areas oftentimes struggle with not having the resources needed in general. And then on top of that, you're underrepresented in this rural community as well. And so really, we're starting to hone in on that, because people always, they ask me, they're like, Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills, like there are Black businesses in that area? Yes, there are, over 100 actually. You know, from students that are at K-State that are Black students in College of Business, or any college really within the university that are starting businesses. We had a couple of students at the Black and Bankable event. And so, you know, whether you're in active military, you know, we have a member of ours that her husband is on faculty at K-State in College of Architecture. She owns a boutique shop B Royalty. And
I remember meeting her.
She was at the event, and she literally, when her husband got the job, she was able to connect with us while they were still up in Boston to figure out what's the lay of the land, what's the landscape here, where can I find retail space, who do I need to talk to, what are the banks, you know, and the relationships that I need to build. She was able to do all of that work prior to even coming here because our organization existed. And so that's really, you know, those are some of the, you know, success stories of our organization. I could talk about people, you know, the organization all day long because we have a lot of good talent here. And I think the organization has just been a point of pride in showing that, you know, yes, these Black businesses in the Flint Hills exist. And yes, we have our vice president. He's been published in Time magazine. You know, we have a member, Javel, who played the saxophone. He's a worldwide influencer with millions of views on TikTok, you know, and teaching others how to get brand deals, you know. And so that's what we're all about, is just uplifting and each one teach one here.
I love it. I love it. Well, definitely. And, you know, it's you brought up certification. On my way in this morning, I actually ran into Rhonda Harris, who's the Office of Minority Women Business Affairs, because I walked through Commerce to get to my office. And so she was out in the hall, and we spoke, and I said that you were coming on, and she was just like, oh my gosh, Shelia does great work out there in the Flint Hills. So yes, you definitely are doing great work.
Oh my goodness. I love Rhonda so much. I have to share this story. I promise you it'll take 30 seconds.
Sure.
Rhonda, Miss Harris, she is a Delta Sigma Theta.
Okay,
and when I was a little girl, I was about 8 years old, and my godfather is actually Mr. Lazone Grays, who has done a lot of work in Topeka.
Yes.
A big advocate for minority business as well. And we found out my godfather and my dad signed me up for a Black History Month program with the Deltas. And our assignment was an essay contest. And we had to pick a Black figure or a pioneer trailblazer that we were going to cover in our essay. And I picked Madam C.J. Walker.
Yes.
At 8 years old. And I won, you know, my level for my grade. And that's where I met Miss Harris first, is there. And it's just been amazing. Because at that time, you know, I didn't know that I was going to get into entrepreneurship.
Right.
But I wrote this essay about Madam C.J. Walker. And I was so inspired as a little girl, like, wow, this Black woman is amazing. The first self-made female millionaire in the country. And so then years later, to be awarded that Minority Business Advocate of the Year award by her office and by Rhonda was just a really big, you know, full circle moment.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay, well, I'm dropping in the chat one more time the link to Black entrepreneurs.
Yeah, blackflinthills.com.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also going to drop in one more time SEG Media.
Yes.
So if you have any social media needs,
yes,
branding, logo, website design needs, please feel free to contact them as well. So yeah, thank you so much. We're at a half an hour. That half an hour just speeds by. Thank you so much, Shelia, for coming on. I look forward to seeing you in the future, working with you in the future, or helping out any way that I can in terms of Black entrepreneurship and economic development in our communities. Thank you so much. There's a couple more Mondays left. I think I have just in general, I'm thinking we're doing one more lunch and learn on the 19th. No lunch and learn on the 26th because the offices will be closed because of Christmas. So, but that's one more time. All right.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much, Stacey, for the opportunity and everything that you're doing for our lovely state of Kansas and the work that you're doing as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yay. All right. Everyone have a great day.